it's never being a guarantee that you're going to make a money. It's a leap of faith at the end, which an investor takes, even though it tick box all the check boxes he is being evaluated. But nevertheless, when we have said, it's an investment in the future of the company, not in the present.
Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of the Startup Operator. In this episode, I'll be speaking to Ajay and Dhruv of Anicut Capital, and we're going to learn more about angel investing and really how things look like from the other side of the table. So without further ado, hey Ajay, hi Dhruv, welcome to the Startup Operator podcast.
Hi, Roshan. Thank you for having us on this podcast.
Pleasure to have you.
Hey Roshan,
Hey, hi Dhruv.
pleasure being here.
Awesome. So let's get started maybe with a brief introduction of yourselves. Could you help our listeners understand more about you?
Definitely. Let me start off with me and then Dhruv can follow. I'm started working in the early stage ecosystem in late 2008 when I joined Indian Angel Network. I joined IN as very below in the ladder in terms of the team. I was joined them as an account manager. This is the stage or this is the time when I get bugged by this startup ecosystem or startup space. As IN being one of the earliest and the largest angel group,
Yeah.
and the primary focus on early stage investment. Initially, though, I was working on the finance part of it, managing the accounts, but definitely the area sounds very interesting and it catch my eye. Therefore, post joining IN, I started developing a lot of key roles or lot of understanding in this space. I spent couple of years understanding nitty gritties of startup funding, talking to investor, talking to team, getting a perspective of this of the ecosystem, and then getting more deeply involved. By God grace, it's been quite a good journey, quite a interesting journey. Within 2 years, I started leading the investment. Started with term sheet negotiations, structuring the deals, and gradually moved toward the whole managing the whole deal flow from shortlisting till we hold any shares, which include shortlisting, term sheet, discussions, deal structuring, valuation negotiations, conducting the whole or managing the whole diligence part, which is financial, legal, and also partake in some of the business diligence as well. Post investment mentoring and monitoring, and also represented lot the investors in the VC negotiation, protecting the rights of the investors. Spent about a decade with IN, had a great amount of learning in the startup ecosystem. Must have been managed about more than 130 primary investment in my stint with IN. Apart from this, there are secondaries, next round of funding, so and so forth. Uh, in 2017, IN came up with the first of his equity fund, a full-fledged Category 1 fund. I was part of the team who set it up the fund, and I in the whole process I'm being promoted from the journey started with an accounts manager and moved to up the ladder by becoming the CFO of the network and the fund. uh, I was working very closely with Ashwin, who is one of the partner in Anycut, and as he was leading a lot of deal and being me the single point contact for all our investors and the entrepreneurs who are raising capital and who are being investing. So had the great experience of working with Ashwin for 6-7 years of engagement. Ashwin and his partner Bala started Anicut Capital in 2016. 2018 we connected when he was looking for a CFO for his debt fund, and since I have a great experience in managing the early stage startup investment, he want me to also handle his family office. Ashwin do a lot of early stage equity investments, and prominent portfolio of the family offices being include Bira, War Momos, Burger Singh, Lending Cart, Wingreens Farm, Specs Maker, Flinto Box, so and so forth, primarily in two spaces, consumer and financial services. That's how we engage. Um, a-
Okay.
and this is the time when we were doing a lot of investment, and and you must have been heard a lot of these angel tax issues. people investing in the early stage, getting directly on the cap table during the security scrutiny times, a lot of questions being asked to the investors. So there was a thought on how to get this organized. As well, we were doing a lot of consortium investment, leading the rounds. So we ended up finding and evaluating a structure called Angel Fund, which is a subcategory of Cat 1 fund. So in late 2018, we got an approval from SEBI for our Angel Fund. And now, apart from being CFO of the debt fund, I'm leading the Angel Fund initiative of Anicut. Till date, we have closed one deal, which is consumer product. It's a shoe company called Neiman's. We're about to close two deals. One is a deep tech company, and the other is in the FMB space. And yesterday itself, we have signed one term sheet with a SaaS company. So in the span of about 5-6 months, we were able to invest about 4 deals.
Okay.
That's a bit background on me. We'll love Dhruv to chip in and give his background.
Yeah, hey Dhruv.
Yeah, hi Roshan. I think Roshan, what Ajay missed out in his introduction is that he himself is an investor in some of the marquee ventures, and the multiple of which we are not allowed to discuss for sure. So yeah, so I think he was so involved in
Right.
this ecosystem. So my background, it's so I'm an engineer. I did my BTech in a field known as biotechnology. Uh, I was a fairly bright student. I think above 7.5 CGPA. Got placed in CCMB Hyderabad, which is a top-notch government-funded lab. Worked there for about a week. I decided that the pay structure was very low, so I switched to sales. In sales, I joined Wipro Consumer Care and Lighting. That was hardcore selling, going to the retailers, negotiating with the distributor. I was handling the North Rajasthan territory. I joined that territory, was doing about 6 odd lakhs. When I left, it was doing 65 lakh. The reason I left was that it was a very tough job. And I did my master's post that. And after master's, I got my exposure to this space of venture capital. Started this segment by being a part of an early stage fund based out of Delhi. I think I was a novice at that time in every word. It was known as India Internet Fund. One of the partners was Anirudh Suri, who himself is an angel as well. I think Anirudh was very patient with me at that time. Got to learn a lot of things of the nitty gritties of this space. After that, I switched over to Indian Angel Network, initially looking at the shortlisting of the deal flow. So I and actually Indian Angel Network got about 6,000-7,000 deals in a year, and to sort of shortlist those deals, the ones which we've got to present to a larger network of investors. I was handling that, started with doing that, and ultimately took over the vetting, shortlisting, diligence of the network, which entailed 10K deals in a year. And also, owning pretty much the whole value chain for the fund deals as well, which involved a lot of diligence, initial vetting, shortlisting. Got a chance to work with Ajay very closely there. Got to learn a lot from him. And when the Angel Fund went live, I think we and Ajay had a chat, and I was more than happy to work with Ajay on it. So at the Angel Fund, I am looking more on the deal onboarding aspect of it, which is again, doing a very deep dive diligence, understanding the terms of investment.
Right, fantastic. So you guys have been involved in this for 10, 12 years, right? And you've been operators at these funds, and you've transitioned into investors as well, right? So I want to check with you on how the angel investing ecosystem itself has evolved over the last 10, 12 years. What has been your experience like?
It was quite a great journey. Though initial days was never being easy. Nobody understand angel investing back then in 2008, 2007. It's a new evolving asset class. At IN, we were trying a lot of effort to convince HNIs to look into this as a portfolio, as part of their portfolio investments, and allocate some fund and invest in the early stage startup. Though this sector or this kind of a portfolio involved a very high risk, or we can always say it's a very high risk portfolio. So a lot of people tend to be not to participate, and they're being more happy to participate in the open market or a public market as an investment portfolio when they're being looking to invest in companies. It's been a quite a journey since then. A lot of effort being gone through educating people. When I joined IEN, we were just about 40, 50 odd members. We have grown since then to a stage where when I left IEN, it was about 500 member investor group. Uh, there's being a lot being done, and I give a credit to a lot of
Wow.
these angel groups who have worked harder in building this whole ecosystem, or at least building this asset class. We have been seen in the early 2008 or 2007. Back then, there is only few of the VCs who are being investing. The ticket size were higher.
Mhm.
None of the early investor guys have enough capabilities or resources to raise capital. Banks are not being funding, so we have not seen much of capital being flowing in. But kudos to these groups, which is prominently IN, Mumbai Angels, Let's
Right.
Venture, Venture Catalyst, who are being working harder in building the whole ecosystem around the early stage funding. Uh, Educating investors, typically, see, it's a very different ball game altogether. Uh, in a public market, you have an understanding of their performances over the years. You know, these are being listed numbers. You can always have an access to information. But in a early stage ecosystem, or probably at the seed stage of funding, which is primarily the first round an entrepreneur is being raising, it's just the future that we are being looking into, and we evaluate whether in the future this can be a very good model or a business. uh, that's the only thing that we have while evaluating and taking an investment decision. So it's always being a tough ask. uh, Thankfully, people understand this, and this has
Right.
gone to the credit of a lot of founders who have made successful ventures out of India. We have OAO, we have Flipkart, who really get the confidence of the
Yeah.
investors, bring the confidence of the investor, and also the other fellow people who were earlier being into jobs, have seen them growing, building their businesses, taking the risk, and started a new venture. So they really inspire, and these are the people who really help build the whole ecosystem. Gradually and slowly, we start seeing traction. uh, See, initially, there is a very heavy lifting that a network has to do in terms of the network as a professional organization need to handhold the investor and the
Mm.
founder, because nobody has a clear sense of what exactly the angel investment ecosystem is all about, what right they need to be protected, what should be negotiated with founder, what an investor should get or what an investor should give. So a lot of time has been spent, and I think the fruitful returns start coming in early to in between about 2010, when we have started seeing a lot of investors started interesting in participating. Though they have taken a slow pace initially in investing or taking an investment decision, but definitely they start coming to pitch session, they start listening to the deals, talking to the entrepreneur, and
Mm.
within it always take a time for an investor who's being from public market to move to a private market and start investing, so they get a gist of how the whole ecosystem works, and they start investing. And then we've seen a lot of people invested in multiple deals. We have a lot of HNIs who have invested 30, 40 deals as a single investor in iron portfolios. Similarly, what we have been seen at Anycut now, in a span of about 6 months,
Right.
being the ecosystem have evolved, a lot of HNIs have started allocating their portfolios, in their portfolio, some allocation for the early stage ecosystem investment. They want to take that high risk. They want to work closely with the company. That I really like about the HNI network. It is
Right.
just not about the money. Now they understood that money is just the one part of it, but they need to do a lot of hand holding, and
Yeah.
they need to educate and guide the entrepreneur based on the learning that they have over building up their own businesses. And that's the very, very great part of being a part of an angel group, whether it's an angel networks or an
Right.
angel funds. Everybody has a criteria where you leverage your network, you leverage the network of HNIs, you leverage the expertise of the HNIs to help them grow. Once they start learning and they start seeing and the taste of returns that they start getting in, which can be exponential. And some of the deals I know at IE, and we have given the upward of 20x as a return multiplier to the investors. That's how the whole thing have started. Initially, people have taken a slow pace,
Wow.
but once they start getting the taste of exits, that's how the whole ecosystem has changed. They start getting return, they start making money, and they start liking working closely with with this young entrepreneur who have a different set of idea, different set of mind game. Their visions are being much different to what the people were doing back in early days of, say, in 2006 2008. So that's how the whole ecosystem has been changed. Now you have seen
Okay.
angel investment become one of the largest source of funding for the early stage ecosystem. They are probably the first check an entrepreneur can get, which validate the business model, help them to grow, and help them to scale to a level where the VCs can get excited and put a money.
Right. So Ajay, that was really helpful, and the as you rightly mentioned, the asset class itself has matured. I think availability of money is so much better these days than it was 10, 12 years back. Right, we're seeing a lot more structure in terms of the profile of the investors itself. I think a lot more institutions are getting involved in early stage startups right now. So Dhruv,
Yeah.
let's take a step back and analyze the angel investing business itself, right?
Yeah.
So how does one make a buck on angel investing? Help us understand, what is the 101 of angel investing?
Sure. So in very simple terms, how an angel investor makes money. So suppose, Roshan, you want to start a business and you need, say, a crore for it. I, as an angel investor, approach you. I listen to your plan, and I agree to put in 1 crore, and mutually agree on a valuation of 10 crore. Right. That means that I own 10% of your company. One reason I've invested in your business is that, of course, it's I like you as a founder. I find your business interesting. The other motivation for me is that the value of the 10% which I'm holding in the company. So your business grows, say, in about 12, 15 months time, you look to raise a larger round. You look to raise, say, 10 crore rupees. And at that time, your business is valued at 50 crores. Right. So when I came in with holding 10% equity, I valued you at 10 CR. And by the time your next round is happening, your whole business is being valued at 50 CR as opposed to 10 CR when I came. So that's roughly 5x sort of a jump in the value of the business. And at the same time, since I am holding equity in your venture, the value of my equity as well. So my money is multiplied on paper, right? Everything is on paper. Uh, Subsequent investor wants more stake in the company, and you are not in a position to dilute that stake. So the subsequent investor offers me cash in return. So that's how I cash out my investment. On that. Difference between two is that in the first case, I was sitting on a 5x return, but it was on paper. The moment the subsequent investor offers me money for my equity, that money is materialized. So that's in plain terms how angel investing works.
Right.
Uh, though it's not as simple as it sounds. For any, this comes with a huge disclaimer for any angel investor. That disclaimer is that you invest in 10 deals. uh, 6 of them won't work out. Couple of deals would give back your principal amount. There would be one deal which would give you a 2x or 3x sort of a return, but that return isn't enough to cover the losses of those 6 companies which haven't worked out. There would be one company who would give you such an excellent return that it would cover the losses of all your companies which couldn't perform. On top of that, give you a decent return of a 4-5x over a span of say 3 odd years. So angel investing is more about diversification, about expanding your portfolio, taking calculated risk. Of course, the underlying math uh, is the value of your equity at the time when you invested vis-a-vis the value of your equity when your investee company grows big and raises a subsequent round and gets valued even more, say 4-5x more. That's the basic 101 of angel
Right.
investing, along with this huge disclaimer which comes.
So Ajay, I want to come back to you on how the ecosystem itself has matured. I mean, so you can add your point, and then after that, I can ask you my question.
No, I would just like to. I was just adding a point here, which Dhruv have rightly said, and we have taken up in the beginning itself. It's a high risk portfolio.
Yeah.
Uh, it's never being a guarantee that you're going to make a money. It's a leap of faith at the end, which an investor takes, even though it tick box all the check boxes he is being evaluated. But nevertheless, what we have said, it's an investment in the future of the company, not in the present, because the future need to be one that can excite a VC to invest, appreciate the value. Therefore, we always suggest an investor to diversify their portfolio rather than being seeking to one domain, which may tend to get an exposure and a risk of if that sector being hit by any bad timings, like what we are being seeing in COVID now. I think restaurant are the businesses who are being hit the most, and the retails are the businesses who are hit the most. So if you have all your exposure in one sector, you definitely tend to get to more risk being involved because you're being concentrated only in one sector. But with the help of these angel groups or the group like us, where we diversify, as as I mentioned earlier, that the 4 deal we have did, it's all from the different domains, from consumer to FMB to deep tech to SaaS platform. So that's where help it to diversify your portfolio, and the risk can be mitigated in terms of if one sector being hit, the other can help you to recover.
Right. Right. So Ajay, I'm going to ask you something which is a CFO's dream, right? Which is, CFOs at the end of the day believe that every business is a balance sheet, right? So help us understand valuations. In that example that Dhruv mentioned, he said that it's valued at 10 crores. So how does someone arrive at that valuation? What are things that you look for?
See, it's a very difficult question to address in terms of any mathematical formulas. I totally believe at the early stage, growth stage has its own different way of evaluating the company. But in early stage, there is a lot of parameter involved. One of the things that generally people love to evaluate upon is how much you have achieved till date, what's your run rate looks like, how bigger your consumer base is. But having said and done, getting a straight multiplier to these number at an early stage will not work. Assume you have started a company and you are being into a consumer facing product. You have invested a lot initially in building a brand value, and once the brand is being felt and the product start getting capturing, then you need a capital to scale. At that moment you may be doing 5 lakh, but you have a very great product. If you've been doing 5 lakh, what kind of a multiplier I can give to evaluate the company? Then comes the various other softer parameters, which help us to determine what kind of a risk we have in this venture. At that risk, what kind of a returns I'm being expecting in next 3 to 5 years. To get to that return, how much stake I need to have today. It means that if I'm investing a 1 rupee now, and the kind of risk involved, the kind of return I can expect is about 3 to 4 years. In 3 to 4 years, at about say a roughly a theoretical number of 3x, then the company need to be after 3 years at certain valuation. Now I will evaluate based on the projections, the market segment, the market size, the competition, and ascertain that how much he can achieve in the capital that we are being funding. And if that capital invested, and if he able to achieve up to a certain number, I can expect 3 to 4x a multiplier in that space. So then he can be valued at this much, and accordingly I will say that, okay, if I need to be valued at this much in 3 years, I need to have this much stake right now. And this is one of the parameters. So it's being a weightage to a lot of other things, like the quality of founder, their prior experience. Have they been built a successful ventures? Like if I get a Zomato founder to come and start a new venture and reach out to us for funding, I can't give him a valuation to a startup which I'm being giving if somebody else come in with a similar idea and he's just a college pass out,
Right.
and it's his first exposure in the business. I know he understands business. His capabilities of raising capital is being much larger. He has built his enough reputation in the market that he can build and scale businesses.
Right.
So at the early stage, I can always say it's more of an art rather than a science. Where we sit down on the table, we understand how much dilution at a initial stage will be justified, because this is not the last round of the company need to keep on raising more capital, and founders should hold quite a good chunk of the capital so that he have enough skin to attract the VCs in the next round of funding. If we are being diluting and I'm giving them 2 crore and taken 70% of the company, the founder become an employee, not a founder anymore.
Yeah.
So that's a check and balances which is being involved of lot of parameter. How big the market size is, what's the growth potential of the company, whether it has just a domestic market or it can be a global product. So there is a lot of these softer parameters which come into a play, which stitch together and then help us to understand what is the fair number of a valuation we can give. And then it's across the table, sit with the entrepreneur, discuss, give us our understanding why we are giving this kind of a valuation, negotiate and close.
Okay, that's useful.
So Roshan, actually, an interesting anecdote came to my mind regarding the valuation, a live example actually. So one startup came to us doing a business of monthly 30 odd lakhs, looking to raise 5 CR, and quoted a valuation expectation of about 25 CR, right? 25 or more I think. We asked him two questions. One is that when do you plan to raise your next round? He said in about 18 months. Then the other question was that at the 18th month, what would be your monthly revenue? He said about 1 crore. Right. So we said that, at the 18th month, you'll be doing 1 crore revenue. If we take the ARR, it would be 12 crore. Considering the funding patterns of other big consumer companies, normally the multiplier you will be getting is about 2 to 3x. Let's assume best case scenario, it's a 3x. At that time, you'll be valued at 36 years, right? Now, for us, our investors, they should get at least 1.5 or 2x of a multiple from now, when you would be raising in say 20th month or 18th.
Right.
So if you take that into account, I think right now your valuation should not be more than about 18 or 19 crores. So that using this money at the 18th month, you'll reach at an ARR of 12 CR, then you would be valued at 36 CR. Our investors, even though on paper, get a 2x of a multiple.
Okay. That's really helpful to understand, Dhruv. Thanks so much for sharing that example. One follow-up to you as well, right, Dhruv, is that, while valuations are one thing, what are some of the other things that, angel investors look for in early stage startups? What should founders know?
4 broad pillars, Roshan. Team, business, investment terms, and exit opportunities. Team, of course, the prior experience of the team. If there are more than one founders, how complementary the skill sets are. So if one is an operations guy, the other should be a tech guy, or the third should be a finance guy, or the fourth should be a product guy, like that. right? Also going into the details of the team, that what's the team size, how much of their team, depending on the sector they have devoted in which department, what's the equities holding. So if there are three founders and you have one founder holding 90% and the other two who are key to the business holding 5% each, that's a sort of a red flag. Coming
Right.
to the business.
Have you seen that happen?
Yes. I think quite number of occasions, and we've had the privilege of coming across founders who are very receptive, who are very mentorable, who've taken this word and come back with a restructured sort of an equity,
Okay.
and that helps. That helps here. I mean, in the eyes of an investor, if it's an F&B company and the food technologist is holding just 5%, what's his or her incentive
Yeah.
to stick to the venture for the longer term and getting amazing products, taking out, researching on amazing products, appealing to the palate of the consumer? What's his or her
See,
incentive?
see, Roshan, this has been generally happen in across where, okay, I have an idea or
Hmm.
I want to start a business. I have a money, but I doesn't have a skill set or a domain expert of that sector. So I bring in some sector expert where I said that you come, I'll give you some equity in the company, and you manage that key role in the venture. Though the capital will be invested by me. In that sense, the structure come across in a way that the person who doesn't have a domain expertise hold the majority stake.
Okay.
But if we have that kind of a structure, we see him not as an executive or not as a domain
Right.
guy who can build the business. We see him as a quote unquote investor founder who is just putting money. In that way, it becomes difficult because the key guy who need to build the business doesn't have enough skin in the game. For him to leave a company
Mm.
can be just on a snap of hand. That he can say that, okay, I had 2% of a stock. If I need to leave now, I'm getting a better salary, better packages, maybe a better person who wants me to give 50% of a stake in his company. I will move on immediately. So there should be enough, the founder, like as an investor,
Right.
we are understanding that how much stake we should get, how much dilute we should make a founder at a certain stage of the company. They should also need to understand there should be a proper balance of of responsibility and of the ownership between the team.
Yeah.
If these two are
Yeah,
not balanced, it will be a very difficult, or it is difficult to invest in those propositions.
Right. And also the journey is
yeah,
so long, right? I mean, typically 10 plus years. And
absolutely.
what you mentioned in terms of skin in the game is extremely important for the person to stay
Yeah,
vested along the journey, right? And it's going to be a very, very difficult journey, lots of ups and downs, more downs than ups, right? So, yeah,
absolutely,
yeah.
absolutely.
Sorry, Dhruv.
I to always believe that starting a startup is the toughest decision that anybody can take. It's a
Yeah,
very tough journey, and I always salute and always admire the courage of these people who started out their own ventures. It's a tough ask. They are putting their family on
Absolutely,
risk.
absolutely.
They're all regular, stable incomes
right.
on risk. And I know the founders who have been working 2 years building the company without taking a salary, and they are being running at what a low income
Yeah,
that they can to build their vision, to
mm,
build their dreams.
right. Yeah, interesting.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Dhruv,
Yeah,
sorry we cut you off.
no
Please
worries, no
complete your
worries.
answer.
So
Yeah.
the second, so the second bit is business market size. Of course, it's very, very essential. Either it should be greater than a typical sort of a parameter for an investor is that whether the market size is either at present greater than $1 billion or in coming 4 years will touch that number. Uh, Business related metrics very important, specifically in these times. uh, the number of users, how engaged, how well engaged the customers are, what are the revenue models, how sustainable are the revenue models, what are the gross margins, when will the company become profitable, what's the sales pipeline looking at, what are the sales cycle looking like, who is the customer segment, whether it's a government or it's a B2C or it's an enterprise or not. So these things are get covered in the business. Third, investment terms, as Ajay mentioned, covered in the previous discussion, an angel investor, for an angel investor to be motivated enough to do something for the company, to add value to the company, whether it's taking part in, strategy building, mentoring, opening doors in the market, he or she has to have a certain threshold of equity for them to be motivated. So dilution matters a lot. At the same time, platforms like us, we also have to be watchful that the dilution isn't that much that it screws up the cap table and makes the next round difficult as well. So that's a delicate balance which we've got to take into account.
Yeah.
Just to add one example toward this deal, I remember in 2014 or 15, there was a deal that at INV invested. It's a very small round, but there was a great amount of dilution that has happened while structuring that deal. When we were started raising the next round, we faced a lot of challenge in terms of, because the founder have diluted a large chunk of capital equity for a very small chunk. So we have to put a lot of effort to restructure the whole deal, to come up with the mechanics where the investors stake get reduced, founder get incentivized. So why to do these all structuring in a later date and make a deal complicated? You should understand as an investor what should be a fair ask at any stage, and accordingly make a investment. Because if the cap table is screwed, the next round of investor will not be interested in investing, even though how great the idea was.
Yeah, that's another thing that I'm sure, you would be working on, right, Ajay, which is that, cleaning up the cap table, because I'm sure, you would have encountered people putting their chacha, nana, neighbor, everyone on the cap table, right? So, yeah, but, as you mentioned, like how angel investing itself has matured as an asset over the years. I think startups and founders have come a long way as well, right? We're seeing a lot more mature founders right now. A lot of them second time, third time founders as well, right? So, how has and you've seen these people pitch over the years as well. So, how have founders changed in this time, Jay?
See, one of the things that founders have been changed over the years is toward their understanding of how to build a whole companies, how to start. Now, earlier the people, if you back and see what's our earlier generation have did, they have an idea, they start on their own, they take money from their parents and start a business. Now, the founders understand that we need to build a scalable and a big businesses. For that, it can't be just a single founder running it. We need to build a team together. We need to have co-founders, partnerships. We need to shed equity. If it is my idea, but I know somebody has a great expertise or a complementary skill set, I should need to bring him on board. So that's the change being happened, which helped them to scale. So I'm being a finance guy. If it is, I'm happy to have somebody who has a business. If I'm doing a retail business, who have a retail experience, because I can bring finance, he can bring retail, and I can bring somebody as a technology. If I've looped the whole structure pretty well or knit the structure pretty well, my chances to succeed are much higher. In terms of a pitching, I think the evolvement of the founders have been gone to a stage now. It's the age of information. Entrepreneurs do a lot of studies. Who are the investors they want to work with? They understand that how to reach those guys. Earlier, what it has happened, there was some event where the VCs comes in and they chip in. Now they doesn't need to wait for any event to happen. They know how to reach those guys. They know what kind of a portfolio they have, and they structure and they reach out to the right set of guys. They do an informed decision. Yes, I want to work with these VCs because they have this complementary set of portfolios. The partner that I'm going to work with has a great expertise in the business or in the domain I'm being working with. So that informed reach has really changed the whole course. Secondly, the founders have not be now being understand that. I think that change has happened in last 2 3 years, as people have, I think, with the outbreak of WeWork, where they try to open it up the IPO, but they are not the profitable companies, and people are being seeing them that if the companies at that scale are not making profit, how the IPOs can come. I think that have changed the whole scenario, where the people are now talking about profitability. Now, if you see all the tweets or all the remarks from the founder. Like if you talk about Oyo, Ritesh is talking about profitability for last 1 years, how we can achieve, what are the various measures that he can achieve. This is one of the great change that have brought in. See, one of the things that every founder need to be clear about, that there is lot of capital, but there will be some days, there will be some period where there will be dearth of capital. So they need to plan in a way that at certain level, they should not be at the mercy of investors. If the investor is not coming, if the times are tough, like today's environment, the time is being tough for anybody to lay the larger round. And if I have a profitable business, I can have seen this journey easily. But if I'm not, I'm burning too much capital. My focus is just bringing and increasing my top line, then it will be a tough time for me, because this period is not for month or two. What we are being seeing, the COVID impact is going to sustain for about 12 months
Yeah.
at minimum.
Right.
So that's a journey where people are now being understanding. Earlier, what was the vision to start a business? That I can earn a good money. Now the vision has changed. Now the vision have come across. I want to build a big organization.
Okay.
I want to build a company who can do 100 crore of revenue, who can be a global product. That's the vision, which the people who are being starting businesses now. So that's a great change, because once you start doing it, they're seeing a very large picture rather than being just running a family business and limiting themselves to certain boundaries.
Yeah. I mean, that's another thing that has incredibly changed over the years. And that's a very good point that you brought up, Ajay, which is the founder's ambitions itself, right? People want to run mega businesses right now, and they have all the reason to believe that they can build the next unicorn out of
Yeah,
out of the garage,
yeah,
right? So
Yeah, that's a valid ambition to have. I think they are being an Indian founder. India is one of the largest market. So they
yeah,
have all the reasons, and they think, and I totally believe that there is enough resources available for any people to come in and build a unicorn out of India. We
yeah,
have seen few of them are being done this and make us proud. And we know that there is lot of soon unicorns companies who are in pipeline.
unicorns,
But I think next five
unicorns and
year journey,
minicorns.
next 5 years,
yeah,
yes. But next 5 year journeys is going to be very interesting.
I
It's
think
going to be
I
yeah,
very
think
interesting.
we've seen
absolutely.
unicorns. I think we've got to see decacons, centicons as well, which will happen. Which will
Yeah,
happen.
absolutely.
Which will definitely happen.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. So, Dhruv, I wanted to come to you about the broader ecosystem, right? I mean, you have this trend of super angels, and we've seen accelerators
Yes.
and so on. So, how do these institutions, how do these people fit in the whole
Yep.
equation?
So okay. So Super Angel. Super Angel is an individual, an HNI who had the risk taking ability early on in the ecosystem, and later on became evangelists of their successful investee companies. See, you've got to realize that angel investment is also there's a lot of peer investing which goes on it. I mean, not in an angel group, not everyone does a really deep dive into a venture and understands all the finer details of it. It is a peer investing sort of game. That is where super angels come in really handy, because they are the ones who've got a really successful track record. They've got good experience in the space. They know how to sort of diligence a deal, how to negotiate the terms, how to identify a good prospect, and based on their thesis, you have many more investors who are flocking in to put in the money. So if you consider my personal opinion, we need lot more super angels uh, than we currently have. This will only encourage the untapped HNIs who are looking at this as angel investing as an asset class and are still on the fence, right? So I think that's my take on super angel. Accelerators, again, very important. Not every a founder has a dream, a founder has an idea, the idea has a potential, but that's the initial capital is what's stopping the founder. I think that's where accelerator comes in, uh, and also the remaining ecosystem as well. I think what we are seeing lately in accelerators is that you've got lot many accelerators who are, say, putting very small check sizes, uh, but at times, as a result of that, that money isn't enough for the founder to get the necessary validation which appeals to the angel investors. I think one way around is having a much more deeper integration as far as the access of capital is concerned. Whether it's sort of an integration of an accelerator with a micro VC, the integration of an accelerator, a partnership rather of an accelerator with a group of angels or super angels who are at least willing to put in more capital so that the founder reaches the desired numbers, the desired product validation for it to become an appetizing investment, say for an early stage VC. Right? That's something. And of course, in terms of the equipment, the instrument of investment, I mean, we've got equity investment and accelerator. Why can't we have an accelerator which comes out with a hybrid model, part equity, part debt, get access to capital? Here the banks can also allocate some of their capital and give access to the accelerators of that, because there are times when at such an early stage the founder does not want to dilute that much, does not want to raise through equity. Definitely there can be a debt at very attractive terms which can compensate the lack of capital which is needed for much more validation of the product. I think that's something which accelerators should come with. And as Ajay rightly says and always says, that all these are very valuable pillars of the ecosystem. They are like a cricket team, all have to play together to win the match, and winning the match. And the match here is building the business of a startup. I think I've rightly put it, Ajay
To
sir.
Yeah, I just like to add. See, when a player being formed, it's not straight gone to a country's team or India part of become a part of the Indian team. He starts from the gully. He goes to a to county cricket and then move to a state or state
Right.
level and then move to a country level. So if we talk about in the gully cricket, the coach is an accelerator. That's the one who's building or helping the companies at the idea stage. They like the idea, they think that is scalable, they work with the company to build the whole plan, to build the whole structure. Then comes the next level of cricket where the coach become an angel investor who help them to reach to the market, who help them give more money, help them to open doors, to help them validate their business model to scale a bit. Then comes your micro VCs and then growth stage VCs. That's the ladder the player or the company keeps on playing and then reach to the last resort, which we can as a unicorn or which we can call it in the simple terms, a player of Indian cricket team. To reach to that
Right.
level, there is a stage that he has to pass through, and each stage there is a different coach for him. And the coaches from accelerator to angel to micro VCs to a proper Series A or upward kind of a VCs that play that coach role with the company and help
Yeah,
them to
the coach
mature.
changes at every
Okay.
level, county, domestic, Ranji, and yeah, international level.
Yeah. That's a great way of putting it. All right. I mean, so enough with all the serious questions. Let's do a quick rapid fire round. It won't be as scandalous as
Is there
some
a
of what you
is there
heard
a
on
hamper?
Karan Johar show.
Roshan, is there a hamper which we'll get after this?
Coffee hamper,
I'll have
coffee
it. I'll have it sent to the. I'll have it sent to your place.
Liquor hamper.
So yeah. So let's. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's better, right? So let's do a rapid fire round. Quick answers to the following question. Right, Ajay, we can start with you, and Dhruv, you can answer as well. So Bessemer Ventures has this anti portfolio, right? Which is that certain startups or founders that they passed on, and these guys became like huge. In your last 10-12 years, can you name one or two of them that you passed on that have become extremely huge?
There are definitely in all the stages that we come in at IN, we had opportunity at some stage to invest in OYO, which we couldn't.
Wow.
But the business at that moment was much different what he did later on. But
Right, right,
yeah, that's the one opportunity we miss.
right. Okay. One founder that you really admire?
विजय शेखर शर्मा
Ah,
विजय
there is a
शेखर
lot.
शर्मा उसको
Okay.
उसको तो
Clear
मैं
favorite.
दिन भर सुन सकता हूँ. He's so motivating, he's so supercharged up. I just love him. Yeah. I
Yeah.
just love him. I mean, I've seen him in person on the stage. Would love to meet him personally as well. मतलब कहाँ से आती है
Amazing.
इतनी energy यार
Yeah.
उसके? He's amazing. He's amazing.
Yeah, yeah. No, and
And one of the
people.
founder I really admire is the founder of Wow Momos. He's a
Okay.
great guy. He's a great guy.
Yeah, Sagar.
Right, 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 right. Yeah, and Vijay Shekhar Sharma. I mean, I'm glad you mentioned that. People don't realize that 197, which is the parent company for Paytm, was founded
Yeah.
almost 20 years back, right? So
Yes.
it's been a long, long journey for him. So, okay, one investor that you really admire.
Rajan Anandan.
Okay,
Ajay sir.
clear favorite again.
Rajan.
No. I really admire a lot of group. I think everybody bring a diversified viewpoint to an portfolio when they come in. I really
Right.
admire my stint working with Ashwin a lot. The way he approach a founder. He's a very
Okay.
founder-friendly entrepreneur,
Right.
and quote unquote, he's always being an advisor to the company he has started backing say way early. He's been enjoying a very good relationship with the founder of Bira, whom he has invested before Bira as a brand have established.
Right.
So that's
Right.
kind of a relationship he built, and I really admire. I really think that this kind of a skill set is definitely required for an HNI or for an angel investor to build a confidence among the founder and work them and help them to scale to a different level.
Yeah, what they can do more
Okay,
than the
Rohit.
money
So,
itself, right? Yeah.
Yes.
okay, Rohit. So I'm not sure if you have the tech for it. So just put Ashwin's name in my voice and Rajan's name in Ajay's voice.
All right, we'll try to see if we can edit that.
No, I'm just kidding. Yeah. I'm just kidding.
Yeah. So one, you mentioned COVID as well, Ajay. So one space that you're really bullish about right now that everyone should be, looking out for.
See, there is not one space. I think there are a couple of spaces that going to be excited enough going forward. Online businesses are being scaling. People are being tend to now move to an online space. Dark kitchen or the cloud kitchen is going to scale. I think asset light models are the one. I definitely believe in edtech and the healthcare service. These are the few sectors which definitely going to scale, and we have already started seeing a positive outcome for these ventures.
So yeah,
Right.
I think.
Right. Okay.
No.
Sorry,
I just
Dhruv,
wanted
go
to
ahead,
add
please.
to what Ajay mentioned. I think self-retailing, social commerce, with the physical being out of the question. Life sciences. I personally would love to invest in life sciences, but long gestation periods. Drones, robot.
Yeah.
One sector I definitely want. One sector I definitely want now to come into a bigger way is the drones. The
Drones,
logistic managed by the
robotics.
drones.
I mean, less of human touch. Drones, robotics, FMCG, personal wellness, mental wellness. I think lockdown has seriously damaged many emotionally as well.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of opportunities coming from this for sure. Okay, most common mistake that you see with startups investing wise. I mean, we spoke about cap table earlier. Would that be the most common mistake that you see?
Valuation expectation, as I said.
In terms of an entrepreneur?
In terms of, let's say it's a good business, but it's not investable.
Cap table is, I think, yes. Either it's very skewed or it's too diluted initially. Yeah.
And understanding of their market sizing as well. Sometimes people try to understand. See, it's a very difficult stage when you're being starting off. whether you see yourself as a early stage and a domestic product or a global product, where your initial resources should go in, how you estimated your expenses to go after a market, and if that estimation goes out, you tend to get out of the capital, which has become a risk. And that's one of the things that founders faces a challenge of running out of capital quickly than they envisage, and that bring them out of the business.
Right. Okay, so I'm going to ask you an insider's question. What is the best way to negotiate with an investor?
The best way to negotiate an investor is to come across to a brilliant idea, a brilliant business. If your idea, I think the only thing that sell is the business and the founder. If that combination is deadly, there is no way stopping you to negotiate with an investor. Then investor should be eager to come on your cap table. I think the prospect of the venture, it's the one which determine the interest of the investors and the capabilities of negotiating with it. The global product, the bigger market, the disruptive product.
And on a lighter note, जब ये सब everything of this fails, then वही अपना पुराना तरीका, सर उसने भी पैसे डाल दिया, राउंड क्लोज होने वाला है, बस इतना ही बचा है, देख लो सर, आना है तो आओ, बहुत बढ़िया डील है.
I have Kunal Bahel on my cap table to give me different valuation.
Amazing. Yeah. So, okay, my final question in the rapid fire round is one work from home hack or solution that you've discovered that's very innovative and people should know about.
I think you are asking to the wrong guys. We are the first one to move back to the office as soon as the lockdown opens.
Hack,
it's totally depend upon hack as being cut it off, give a separate space, which is sometimes become difficult in the Indian families. To being there is a larger family, joint families, and then you need and getting your own space, because you definitely need to have a focus area. That's why you love your offices to work from, because the environment there is being totally work friendly. Everybody is focusing on work. So cut it off. Get some time being fixed where you're being not part of the rest of the things and being in a separate room, just focusing on the work. That may help you to focus and may help you to really do your work.
So this was a hack which me and Ajay tried during the lockdown, Roshan. So Ajay suggested that let's do a daily 11 a.m. call, 10:30 a.m. call. So come what may, we used to take out time for a daily call. We used to discuss what are the updates, allocate work to ourselves, and plan the day accordingly. So that way, I think early in the day, when you are talking with your team members and you get a sense of, what's pending, what needs to be done, I think that gets you in the mode of, of working, work.
Yeah, makes you more organized as well. Yeah. Okay. So we're coming to the end of the podcast. This has been a super insightful conversation, Ajay and Dhruv. Thank you so much. So before you leave, I wanted to understand, any words of advice to founders who may be listening to this podcast?
The only advice I can think of is build business in the areas of your expertise or your passion. Do not build business for investors. Need to have a scalable and a profitable business rather than running around on the top lines and the numbers. Just build a solid business with good unit economics, which can help you to scale even in the tough times.
Yeah, I think from my side, one is don't get swayed by the glamour of raising venture capital money, large rounds of venture capital money. Build the business, keeping in mind that tomorrow, if all external capital isn't available, except for your friends and family, business is still sustainable and still grows at a decent pace. So think about that. And another advice, of course, do listen to Startup Operator like, share, subscribe for sure.
Yes.
Yeah, thanks so much. Thanks for that endorsement, Dhruv. Really appreciate that. Thanks again for your time, both of you. I mean, this was very insightful for me as well. And I'm sure that people listening to this will take away a lot of insights about startups, about angel investing, and the broader ecosystem. So thank you everyone for tuning in. If you liked this episode, as Dhruv mentioned, don't forget to share and subscribe. This podcast will be available on all popular platforms. So until next time, stay safe and take care. Thank you.